Hello, everybody. Today I have a really special guest on the show, the Soul Journey podcast and video. I'm Natalie. I'm the host and the owner of the Soul Journey. And today I have Heather. What we met about like 16 years ago, and now we just kind of our path has they're crossing again, which I'm really loving. So Heather, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, it was nice that we met through animals and now we're still like, "Ooh, animals," the two of us. So it's cool how you stay true to yourself regardless of your age and how time passes. I am a naturopath. I used to work in the corporate world for like the first half of my life. And then not long before I met you, I quit that job and became I didn't know what I was going to do. I was going to do an eat, pray, love kind of year for myself. And then school happened and I was the opposite of that school and how I was living. And just that time created the space for me to become more of who I am. And yeah, it's been 17 years of working as a naturopath with a bunch of different training like you do when you first start out and you don't think you know enough to help people. So I've done training in acupuncture and energy work and holistic nutrition and Bach flower remedies and theta healing and so there's an eclectic mix of stuff that I've been exposed to, and I just try and get out of the way when I work with my clients. And I work with animals and people. So the little child in me who wanted to be a vet is super happy because I don't have to live within those boundaries of being a vet. Don't put any animals down. So yeah, it's been a really fun ride. I love I love the outdoors. I've been hanging out with horses now for the last 3 years. Had a lot of old dogs in my world, cats. Yeah. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of who you are and what you do?
My favorite part. Oof. Oof. Favorite part. I would say it's the animals.
Yeah.
I would totally say it's my connection with animals and um yeah, because it doesn't stop with what I do. That's just part of who I be. Yeah. Whether it's just paying attention to them or being aware of kind of what's going on with them being aware of what's going on with me. It's this sometimes it has an agenda, which isn't that's learning. um, so it's not perfect. It's lots of learning sometimes, but it's coming from a very pure place of
Yeah.
learning, which is yeah, probably my favorite place. Yeah, that would be it.
Yeah. Good. Have you ever experienced uh your favorite part in being with the animals and doing that work and having the animal be like a mediator or like the middle ground for another person?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of times a two for one if they're a client. If somebody's coming for a horse or for a dog, um, rarely if the person is open to receiving feedback and they're not in a space of I need my animal fixed and this is only about the animal, and then which I'm definitely seeing more people who are in alignment with like let's fix the whole package, and understanding that it is a package deal kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely occurs in my world because I work so many years with mostly people that it's hard not to also support the person in the equation, because if we're better, the animal's better because
Yeah.
they're empaths. And I see a lot of empaths or highly sensitive people who are just like
Yeah.
needing some tools or
Yeah.
support or just understanding of how they got a little bit misguided in their codependent energy ways.
Yeah.
Like, everything I tell people is because I've had to learn it myself.
Well,
So,
yeah, that's how it
yeah.
works. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not standing on some pedestal going, "This is how it is." It's like, "Oh my gosh, I've climbed up here and this was helpful to me. Maybe this will be helpful to you."
Yeah, and you're more on a neutral side of this is what I see on from the animal point of view, but then it always relates to the human too.
Yeah, or I've even seen animals making humans accountable.
Yeah.
Like, "I won't get better unless you do something with yourself." Like, that was blunt, but yeah, okay. So that has occurred.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's just, past lives come about and, like, a better, deeper understanding sometimes, again, with the openness of the client. It doesn't always come out with those words, um,
Mhm.
depending on the openness of the client, but we can go wide and far and really cool places and creating more, awareness, I guess, for
Harmony.
harmony. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, this is just one example of how we can just go off subject and just keep talking and talking and talking for the whole day because we can do that.
Yes,
Um,
we've
the
done that before. On, like, the front porches of people's houses even.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, crap, yeah, I should probably go. Okay, see you later, Heather."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the series of these episode, it's around it revolves around fear. We all have different perspective on fear. We all see it differently, and I like to shed some light on this topic because a lot of people, for various reasons, we will keep it in the closet. And I speak from my own experiences of just stepping out into new uh fear was right there in my face. And so when I asked you to be on the show and you're like, this is really interesting. So what's your take on fear, Heather?
Well, my first instinct when I got your message was like, "I don't wanna put any energy into that. What are you talking about, Natalie?" Like, "Natalie? It's you?
Is that
Who's that
you?
text message?" Anyways, that evolved over time because I just come fresh off of a course that, really resonated with me, and that course is called Being You, Changing the World. And before that course, my interactions with fear, I guess, have been, um, I if I look at it at 5,000 feet in my life, and I look at it when I'm actually in it, if I've ever actually been in fear, and I don't know whether I've actually been in fear.
Well, it can be even like
Like,
observations that you've had throughout your life.
it's been in worry. I think I fall to worry more than
Mm,
fear. And
interesting.
my understanding of my world with worry, which I do with all emotions in my work, is that it's just energy.
Yeah.
And if we haven't processed that emotion, if we haven't sat in that emotion, which, you know, sometimes there's things to process in the body or process in the emotion. If we haven't actually sat with it, we can just throw out the energy of it and have it not ping. So I would throw out my learned behavior of worry from my mother because she was responsible for everything and was a nurse and knew too much, in her own knowing, intuitive way. And there's many ways the world can go off the rails. So worry was her thing. So around the time I met you, I just started throwing out my worry because it
Mm,
was just seemed to be stopping my progress. So to me, everything got lighter when I started doing that. So any emotion when I'm with people, if anxiety is their thing or whatever, I would just get them to grab the awareness of that energy and throw it out, whatever was in their highest and best to throw out without doing math or sitting with it or wondering. And a lot of times the whole chunk went away.
yeah.
And so that made me go, well, how much of this is actually stuff, or maybe they've done a lot of processing and they're just carrying it around because it's like a Santa sack and it's comfortable, and poopy diaper, of a 3-year-old who we have to chase around because it's also sometimes a way to stop us from moving forward and moving forward into the unknown, which is fearful, but also exciting. And so the exciting part is interesting because that goes back to the Being You, Changing the World course, because in that course, they literally put it in words that fear doesn't exist. There's 3 things. It's a distractor implant, which they describe as and I'm not going to put the right words on this. People can go look it up themselves or gather information from them.
Well, no,
But
it's your understanding of it.
right. But I haven't been exposed that much to it. But it's kind of along the lines of gathering the energy of this stuff and throwing it out,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's actually implanted by society or by people in our world. So, i.e., my mother with worry, or it's an implant. So it's an emotion that has been implanted into the system to create more of that, to create stuckness. So it's a distractor implant. It doesn't exist, or it's mislabeled as like it's excitement mislabeled. And I literally had a podcast guest yesterday. We were talking about intuition, and I'm like, you just said what, like, wow, okay. So she's like, if I have fear, because our intuition, we sometimes will perceive fear as an intuition. She's like, I run towards that. And I'm like, So she's not necessarily labeling it as excitement, but the fact that she has the intuition to run towards something that she's fearful of, I'm full body goosebumps. It's like, okay, what part of that is another way of looking at the diamond of fear, right? So, or any emotion really
Yeah.
that makes us feel stuck. So that's kind of, anytime I've had clients in fearful places, I check for whether there's a chemistry imbalance, like a nutrient imbalance that's like a blood sugar thing, because that can put our body into a very physical, fearful place because it's trying to get us to eat. Like the survival reptilian brain thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it could be they're lacking in a particular nutrient. And they don't have the enzymes to break it down, so you feed them the nutrient, they're fine. Not to say like there's a whole bunch of ways people can chase this. So I'm just talking about from my experience and my points of view.
Yeah.
And then I deal with Bach flower remedies, which is totally energetic, the homeopathic, and stuff lifts off that way too. So the experience of emotions being way more energetic, whether it's through the emotion code that I've had experience with, or whether it's through theta healing, whether it's through Bach flower remedies, or just making a snowball and chucking it out, it's like, how much of these are actually real? And when I feel the positive ones, are they real too? Like, I mean, you can go down a huge rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's whatever makes you feel lighter, like whatever your belief system is to make you feel lighter and more centered and being, is where I'm at. Like,
And at the end of the day, it all boils down to our perspective.
mm, mm-hmm. Point of
And
view.
and but the thing is that a lot of people, in order to find our identity, will latch on to certain perspective and to give us that feeling of well, it's a quick fix of finding satisfaction, quick gratification in finding ourselves and finding in being grounded and being centered. We will latch on to, and I mean I mean the human race, latch on to certain labels or certain perspectives, certain ideologies, just to be able to kind of find our surface identity. Would you kind of agree on that?
Well, and I think that's kind of a training that
Yeah.
we've had over centuries. That's a training that we do that to belong, almost in a sense. And I'm not sitting here saying that I haven't been like off my rails emotionally ever for long periods of time. I totally have, like a death of a dog, poof, like some societal things, reliving traumas, whatever. Like I'm not sitting here saying I just live in this place, me and my horses and my animals. Like, no, I'm part of the human experience. And like I've bought in, I've, wallowed and been in my head a ton. And it's when I'm in my head that these things actually hook in. Like it's when I'm up here,
Yeah.
and taking myself out of here sometimes requires a lot of like, like one finger at a time, to get out of the head. But I think that there is a lot when you say about the labels. I think we having something to identify it as is comforting,
Yeah.
because again, the unknown, how long is this going to last? What can I do for it? Like, rather than being in it, that's the head stuff, right? Like we're saying the same thing. Yeah.
But
Just
there's a catch to that though, because when we do label it, we activated it. We put power to it. We make that real,
yeah,
which is
making it solid.
yeah, which is the catch. So at the end of the day, nothing's real and everything's temporary, but we will find some kind of real discomfort in just even me saying those words. I know people are gonna be like, well, if everything's temporary, what's there to grab? What's there? Essentially nothing. But
Same.
everything at the same time. It depends where your head's at. It depends on where your attention goes, where your focus goes, what it depends.
Yeah. Well, and you say nothing and everything. And I think back to a good friend who's started off as a podcast guest, Susan Fay, and she describes one of her awarenesses, and even the name of her book is called The Sacred Space. And she described it as it's a place where there's nothing and a place where there's everything. And that is consciousness. That is like, that is being, that is the place where we experience probably the most peace, the most connection, or communion is another word she'll use. And when she describes these places, it's like, okay, well, I hope everybody can experience that at some point in their life. And a lot of people probably do if they have the ability to go to sleep in that in between awake and sleep place.
Yeah.
Not everybody has the ability to go to sleep, but anyways, yeah, it's all really curious how we are kind of learning to unlearn a lot of things.
Hmm. And if we look at the animal kingdom, with the animals, they live on off instinct, solely instinct, and they will let's say it's a prey animal being chased by a predator, so like a bunny and a fox or coyote, or they do have that response, but it's not a mental, it's a physical response that they become to run, to be able to run, and even like we can hear stories on the news, like this mom lift this car off her kid, or because it's the full adrenaline rush. So that like there's an actual physiological whatever that word
Yeah. Yeah, you said it.
is,
Yeah,
physical response that happens for us to tap into the superpowers that we all have. But after that, we we should go back to peace, but then our mind kicks in and it's like, hey, something happened there. Maybe you should pay attention. Is that a trap or something?
yeah. Maybe. Well, and I think I think some of it comes from the fact that we're not able to run when those things happen sometimes.
Yeah.
We're not able to discharge that energy that occurs. And like the flight, fight, fawn, freeze thing, it's when that energy gets trapped inside that, I think it can just ping, 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 ping. And then if we're actually experiencing it with other people and we're an empath or highly sensitive, we're tripling or exponentially experiencing the trauma, whether we know it or not,
Hmm.
unless we have a awareness that some of this stuff's not ours. Um, and I did a training with horses and fascia and trauma release, and I'd done trauma releasing exercises before, and I looked into maybe doing that training. And that's all about shaking. It's all about tremoring out, not being in your head, allowing your body to have its muscles actually tremor. And it releases trauma. You're not cognitively aware of which trauma is stored in which muscle, which cell, blah, blah, blah. But I've witnessed clients release stuff that they hadn't even told me until after they did the trauma release that, oh, that situation is no longer hanging out with me when I'm alone in the shower.
Wow.
And it's like, oh,
So that it just confirms that our body holds all this
mhm,
energy.
mhm, mhm. And it's it needs physical activation to release in some ways, right? If we look at just that fight, flight, freeze. And you'll see an animal like like like
Of course, yeah.
they will like the bird gets away from the cat and they're all like spazzy in the bird bath going, whew, that was close. know, and laugh. And we're like, I'm fine. It's okay. I'm stoic.
So we do the opposite. We tense up.
I am stoic. Nothing's happening inside me. I am fine. Yes, I even have the smile planted on my face because that's so fine. That's
But
so fucking
the
pardon me.
jaws clenching, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I shouldn't have just said I'm so fine. So fine, right? So anyways, so yes, and like we get into fetal position when we sleep, we fetal position when we curl up on the couch, and that's a very body intuitive protective place that even animals do. Like they possum, they fetal, right? Like, but animals then will shake stuff off. Like they'll wait, oh, danger's over. I played dead, it worked. And then and then they will shake stuff off. And literally, they will shake when they're getting killed. Like they will continue to, and I've seen it in euthanasia, and a dog will shake in euthanasia sometimes. And it's like hard, like just to process that. But
Hmm.
I have seen that happen with one of my dogs. And yeah, so we don't have to do trauma releasing exercise. We just have to be moving more vigorously sometimes too, with also probably intention. Like, because when you lay down for a trauma releasing exercise, that's your intention is to release the trauma. But I've also seen it working with horses on scar tissue or or just working on their body fascia, holding space, having them, because they will, in our current scenario, they will have to be stoic and
Yeah.
suck stuff up because they don't have the ability to run always from what is making them stressed.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
mhm.
this is really, really interesting. And one of the things that kind of alarmed me to start speaking more about it is exactly that, because our response to the label that we attach to a certain emotion, and in this case is fear, is we tense up and we're like, no, not gonna, I don't want to deal with this. But our body is like in full responsive mode and it's like with flashing like all the lights going off on your dashboard in your car, like everything, like even your horn is honking, like bang, 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 like the alarm's going off, like something's happening. But there's when it gets stored in our body and we don't allow it to flow, that's when we experience all types of other. I see them as like light, like thinner layers, but like that certain situation at the core, and then there's like other types of layers, like our body's gonna mask certain feelings with like sadness or shame or guilt or whatever, but it's all like it's not at the core, but we'll start to live in those energies because we haven't allowed our body to experience it and release it.
Mhm, mhm. And then if you look at timeline stuff or ancestral or generational, and you work with this stuff with your DNA, like there's also those layers to it, like that. Again, cognitively, we're not sitting in our experience going, I wonder when this type of thing has happened in my lineage before. It's like, oh, the famine. Oh no, like there's a shortage of toilet paper. When has a shortage happened in my lineage before? Well, were you part of the potato famine? Did you have a poor crop one year? Like what, you know, how did that go for you? Because we have so many conveniences, we don't actually think about the fact that we can be maybe even living our own experiences as a energetic being that we experience blah 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 in other times and spaces, but we could also be experiencing literally grandma's experience in the depression, because we were inside of her, because we were inside our mom, like it could be that also kind of stuff, in
Yeah.
a very physical sense, regardless of past life stuff. Everybody was hanging out in their grandma. Like, how was her life? Well, I don't know. If you're an empath and hanging out in your grandmother, how was her life? Right. You know, had you chose yet? No, but your cells were there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I've done that yet.
And then I have to deal with it. So what do I do with it?
Mm. And these are rabbit holes that you can spend a lot of time in here with, or
Mhm.
not. And it can just be, a Bach flower remedy, a trauma release. Oh, that's an awareness. Nice. Okay, moving along. Like I
Yeah.
love to investigate and go down rabbit holes. That's part of what I do. But there's a balance between
Yeah.
how much time I spend up here. That's healthy for me.
Yeah.
Um,
So what would you
mm,
say would be like a one of the not the best, because there's different methods for different people depending on where they're at in releasing it and their own experience in life. But like what would you say? First of all, it is important to start to acknowledge that we do have a long-term release that we need to allow our body to just release and move. And so that's key number one. That would be the most important thing. But to like to because there is like a process of association with different things, like our mind likes to associate. So yes, this is a situation, but then we have to allow our body to process. So what in your opinion, what's the process like in just in a nutshell of releasing any type of fear or trauma or
well, another lady, couple ladies and horses have also put the importance of the vagus nerve on my radar. Um, so Kelly Marie and Suki Baxter, and horses, and understanding the work with vagus nerve and from horse people. So understanding that you're not necessarily in the stress when your mind is mapping stress, and doing like going down the rabbit hole of investigating how to reorganize your parasympathetic and sympathetic system, which is controlled by your vagus nerve. And it's as simple as holding your face like you would hold a child and go, oh my goodness, I just love you so much. That you can do in a meeting. You could be doing in the car one-handed. You can, just two of the fingers behind your ear, two of the fingers in front of your ear and holding your face. The vagus nerve runs all down here. It certainly runs down here. It's connected to your eyes, your ears, all the way down to your digestive system. So, you know, allowing comfort, giving your body physical touch, comfort on skin when nothing is going on, or even if something is going on, and looking in your environment going, I am safe here right now. Look at, oh, like it is so safe. Like, and you'll notice you'll salivate, your shoulders will come down, you'll start to like sigh and yawn and breathe and slow blink. And that's your parasympathetic system going, oh, look at that. I can relax here. That's interesting. And so reprogramming what is the thing that's actually creating the stress, and are we needing to be in stress all the time, or are we just in a habit from a nervous system perspective being in stress? That would be something that anybody can do, and everybody in this time and day and age and space could benefit from.
Yeah, because we don't have wolves running after us all the time.
No, but our mind can.
Yeah, I know, but that's like we have to
system.
detach from, like, just look behind you. There's nothing there, so it's time for you to relax.
Yeah. So I think the vagus nerve piece was important in my world to put that in place. You mentioned the movement, which is awesome. And I would put nature in there because it's regulating. The earth is changing, but it's still very regulating for us. So getting outside or touching water in some way, even a bath or soaking your feet, like touching the elements that are part of nature, becoming more in tune with the rhythms of what is natural and in nature. And then sitting with a filter of what makes you feel more at peace, and recognizing that, like, or lighter or better, or and starting to actually be present enough to celebrate those things or pay attention to what did that, do that more, like becoming more aware, which means we have to slow down and do less. And our electronics are like addictive for a reason. Like, don't even talk to me about like addiction to my bringing electronics.
It's another rabbit hole that we could dive into.
But there's soothing things about it, algorithm and all that stuff, blah blah blah. So can we do that in other ways so that we don't have to be engaged with the electronic as much? Like figuring out what that is for each person is probably worthy.
Yeah. And I'm doing, like, it started as an experiment, but not really, but I like to experiment certain things on myself, and then I'm able to talk about it and share my experience, and it turns into knowledge. And I was like, so I like to wake up earlier than everybody else in my house, because when I wake up, it needs to be quiet. I have to have that quiet space because it takes me a while for my body to start to wake up, and I acknowledge that and I take responsibility for that. And when I was like, okay, and now that I'm in a more of a routine, the kids sleep more, so I'm able to rest actually throughout the night. I didn't want to just wake up and be on my phone because that's just the addictive part of it. So like, I'm gonna start reading again. So what book should I read? So it actually activated something within me, because I've never really thought of myself as a big reader, but it just allows me to have that calm time with myself. And it's very calming, and reading it and I'm reading and I had an observation this morning of, whoa, I know the voice of the lady that wrote the book, and I can hear her voice as I'm reading the book, as I'm reading the words. And it was really, it made me feel the bubble that I was in with myself and with the book and the read and the writer. And it was really interesting. And I was like, this type of peacefulness needs to happen more often with just everybody, and just everybody needs to experience that at least once a day. That's so important.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or if it's hard to do it once a day, then try and do a day a week with nothing. Like
Yeah.
just be on a tech vacation. Let everybody know you haven't fallen in a ditch because that's part of the obligate. Like there's an obligation. You didn't answer me. Like, like,
Are you okay? Yeah.
are you okay? So it's part of belonging. It's part of attachment. There's so many things to the technology that kind of like we started the conversation, how we've kind of been taught to behave or respond to different things because of how things operate. And technology is just exactly the same. It's like, oh my gosh, oh, fun.
Yeah.
So it's awesome that you're reading. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And but it's taking the time, and something really important and powerful happens when we take the time to just either it's reading or just walking, and either you're and just listening to nature, just finding that peace, that moment of peace allows our body to release certain things that needs to be released, that if our mind would be busy busy busy, our body would not be able to release and just process and function and go find the natural state of harmony. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I miss my dogs because they would get me out every day,
Yeah.
regardless of the weather. And I'm not disciplined enough to do that yet. Yet.
Eventually.
Horses get me out. I will
Yeah.
go see with horses. They've just replaced the dogs, but it's different. It's different. It's kind of
It's not a walk. You're still out with the horses, but it's not. Yeah, it's different.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally different.
Yeah. So
Oh, yeah, that would be that's cool. I love that you're almost enlisting a challenge to people, including myself.
yeah,
Awesome.
to find like 10 minutes, and sometimes some mornings I have 15 minutes, some mornings I have 40. It depends, but I'm not attached to that time. I'm attached to that feeling that I get, and it takes me about 30 seconds to get into that feeling now of just I curl up on the couch with a big blanket and I'm like, oh, and I take a time to just look outside, and regardless if I see stars or the moon, or I just look outside and I just stay in the darkness and the calm, and then I open my flashlight and I open the book, and then I go and I start reading, and I'm attached to that feeling of just being like, oh, feels so nice.
Not responsible for anybody's anything.
No,
Yeah.
but and I it's the feeling that I get that I'm addicted to now, of
Yeah.
getting to that point of calmness. But it was hard. It was really really hard to get my butt out of the bed, because I it's easy to snooze. It's very easy to snooze and say like, I'll just keep 5 minutes, just 5 more minutes, and then but 5 minutes just ends up being 20, and then your day has to start, and it's go go go, because we all have certain obligations throughout our day. um but again, it helps with coming back to our natural balance, our natural state of being, when we do have, and we can tap into those times of feeling calm, like animals do.
Mhm.
Horses spend most time grazing calmly, and when
Yeah.
somebody annoying comes behind them, they can pin their ears and kick them if they want to get rid of them, and but go back to their peacefulness after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dogs too. All animals do
Cats,
that. Cat,
cats are, they own it.
yeah. So we all
Mhm.
have that need, would you say, of wanting more peace and calm?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I think we've just, I call it trauma stacking. What's
Yeah.
happening and has been happening for way more than it just seems easier to trauma stack now, because of the access of information. So um, yeah, and so it's consciously disconnecting from that. It's like I wouldn't say everybody has to be as extreme as I do, but I don't have a television. And I'm happy about that because
But
it was one of my addictions. I was like, CSI 4 nights a week, like talk about coming home from work and then doing more. Like, oh my God. But it was the puzzle. But oh my God. Like now I'm like, oof, oof. Yes, the puzzle. You can find other puzzles. Don't be. Uh, anyways, so that was my world. That was not
what worked and what works for you to be able to find a balance throughout your day?
well, like this latest thing that I've gotten involved with probably for the last couple of years, this access consciousness, access bars I trained in a year ago almost to the day. And that is a place where you're not supposed to do anything. You hold on to a person's head. So while the person is receiving it, I'm also responsible to just be. so so the more I actually am able to give that, the better it is. Oh shoot, my battery's about to click off. Damn it. I wasn't very smart. So that may be a sign. But yes, the bars is helping. I get involved with nature regularly. Like I get out there at least every day, regardless of the weather. And now, mostly in this current days, yeah. So those two things for sure.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Well, thanks for sharing. Thank you for accepting to come on this show with me. I'm always excited to talk to you. I always have so much fun, and we can chat for days.
Well,
Any last final thoughts that you would have, little nuggets of wisdom that you have, because you have loads, but
I would just like, I consider what's happened today throwing a whole bunch of spaghetti on the wall and just have people intuitively see what pings, if anything, and go down a rabbit hole and figure out what your world is in regards to fear and what resonates. And I mean, you're going to be talking with lots of different people about this topic. And now that I understand what you're doing, I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. It's just information about that topic, which is awesome. Yeah, just have people open up to what works for them, like
mhm.
what resonates with them, what, like, pay attention to your internal radar, what feels good or what you want to investigate more. Even if it is a mental brain thing that you want to go down a rabbit hole, go do that, because that is having you investigate something that's self-care as opposed to investigating something that's stressful. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have nothing to add to that. That was the perfect way to end this this show, this conversation. So again, thank you for all the listeners and viewers, and I'll see you all next week.